those of you who are listening, we're live today from Rochester Institute of Technology, at least Tom and I are. And we're here with Frameless Labs. So I'm Susan Lakin. I'm a professor in the College of Art and Design. And I'm here with my colleague, Tom Dooley, who's a professor from the College of Liberal Arts. And it's our privilege today to have with us Douglas Sonders, who is a content creator and film producer. He was a graduate from the School of Photographic Arts and Sciences and with a BFA from the Ad Photo program in 2004. And he has going to share with us his journey to his current work in augmented reality and virtual reality. He pioneered virtual reality projects for National Geographic, created augmented reality ads for companies such as Amazon, Toyota, Volkswagen, Jeep, which won 2 International Smarty Awards. In 2017, he co-founded Expanded Existence, a company that's working in the fields of immersive technology, creative content production, and medical neuroscience. So welcome, Douglas. We're excited to have you here today. And just wanted to start off with maybe having you talk about, kind of a timeline of when you left school and how that's brought you, going from a photography degree, where that's brought you to today in a lot of the work that you're doing in augmented reality and virtual reality.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's sort of a greetings from cloudy or smoky, can't tell, LA. But yeah, it's been a wild ride over the last 16 years, has it been, since I graduated? Was a portrait photographer. Really enjoyed editorial on location portraits, and I was prepared an opportunity for myself to be able to graduate from RIT to be a rock and roll tour photographer back when that was, I guess, sort of a profound thing, pre-Instagram and a lot of social media platforms. Started touring with one of the #1 rock bands, and then getting recruited by Universal Records, and then became one of the first photographers in the house at iTunes at Apple, and then transitioned to magazine editorial, Time, Billboard, Rolling Stone, ESPN, a little bit of Nat Geo and Discovery stuff. Then transitioned to more advertising, larger production stuff, because I found that a lot of my portrait work and environmental portraits kind of had a larger production feel. And so it was an easy transition to advertising. And then about 15 years ago, DSLR video became kind of a thing. And YouTube, a little over a decade ago is kind of a thing. And so clients were looking for more streaming and digital content. So it was my childhood best friend, Nicholas Kambata. I've known him almost 30 years. He said, if any of your clients need video, you should offer it. And I think literally a week later, we closed a pretty decent sized contract with a client that was using me for print, but then said, hey, we need some content for our website, video wise. And it was just B-roll footage. It was honestly super easy stuff to music and fades between shots. And now, we've transitioned, to whatever, 10, 15 years later, we've had produced probably over 1,000 ads in the print and motion space. I'm more of an executive producer. I rarely pick up a camera. Sometimes I do. I shot Mike Tyson's portrait earlier this year for a fairly large campaign, and I'll shoot 2 or 3 times a year, but mainly I manage directors and shooters. And then to kind of wrap this up, around 5 or 6 years ago, Nick and I were really excited by spherical VR content. It was early days when Oculus Dev Kit 1, was a thing. It was before VR was really, truly known. And we were shooting a campaign for Nissan in England at the Goodwood Festival, and Nissan and Mercedes had an early Dev Kit 1 experience at their booths. And we thought it was so cool, but the content was very rudimentary, and we thought as creatives we could do much better. That remains to be seen if that was accurate or not, but we kind of threw together whatever money we had at the time and started prototyping and 3D printing and playing around with spherical VR stuff and put together sort of a sizzle reel and shot a couple little jobs. And then Nat Geo, our friends at Nat Geo, saw what we were doing and wanted to jump in, and we shot their first ever documentary in that space. I nearly got gored by a buffalo. It was its own crazy adventure. And we ended up shooting a lot of VR content, spherical content in that space. But we saw augmented reality as the future. We knew spherical would kind of like, you couldn't get the big bucks you were getting in the early days for spherical. It would be easier, and you could now buy a $300 camera that does a pretty decent job and live stream from there. But AR is the future. And so we started XX about 2-3 years ago. Our first project was a wacky one. We were shooting a VR thing for AOL, and we were at a Jeep press event in Moab, Utah. And as the nature of how I am, I walked up to the director of Jeep Brands and I said, "You guys aren't doing anything in immersive. You need to be." And I was middle of another shoot, and this guy thought I was a little wacky, walking up to him, saying, "Oh, I guess I really thought of it." And then we met up and we put together a prototype for a configuration, AR configurator, and Skip, long story short, ended up producing a really great Jeep augmented reality car configuration app for iOS and Android. And that opened the door for XX, Expanded Existence, to do a lot of other really great stuff. We have 2 surgical centers through our co-founder, Dr. Masson. And I can't get too much into weeds, but actually we're actually developing our own augmented reality platform to increase efficiency within the operating room. And I'll finish it there, because we found that although while we're doing AR ad campaigns right now, it's still the early days, and we knew we'd be way ahead of the game. It's not like intense campaigns every day doing AR stuff. We do pretty well, but we knew in the future developing our own IP was truly the future of building a long-lasting, successful immersive tech company.
That is great. I really enjoy hearing this too, because as I said before we went live, you are graduated with my first class at RIT. And so it's wonderful to hear your journey, because that's actually been my journey in developing curriculum in my classes, where, started to have to look into video, and then brought in the augmented reality, brought in the virtual reality. And so it's just been a really exciting time in the last 2 decades. And I really love hearing the fact that you've really embraced that and have been open to change and open to innovation, and bringing that into your business is just really exciting. I wanted to also just encourage anybody who is viewing. You're welcome to engage with Douglas with any questions. Just put them in the comment window, and Tom is going to field some of those questions. So feel free, anybody that is listening, to chime in if you'd like to as well. Just in thinking about, looking at your timeline, and thinking about kind of the future of the innovation. I mean, this is another reason why, it's really important, I think, to engage with alumni, is that you also see from a different perspective the field. And do you have any sense, you talked about augmented reality, and of course, how much that is, growing, I think, as you said, a little more so than virtual reality, in part because the hardware is not quite there, quite affordable yet for the general public to have it. Where augmented reality, I think, is a little more accessible. Do you have any other thoughts about where you see the field going?
Sure. I have my Holo 2, one of our Holo 2 units. So it's interesting. That's a long discussion, and I've been very lucky being involved in the space, especially early on, that we're able to collaborate to the high level with a lot of the key hardware and software pioneers in the AR platform space. We're lucky that, this is amazing, but I think we're a ways off from HMDs becoming a really truly successful thing. I mean, the HoloLens 2 was a huge leap forward in the space. But ultimately, you know, this is really great for industrial. We have friends like at Red 6 that they're developing their own AR headsets, but they're for fighter jet applications and flight training. So, you know, from the industrial space, AR is great. That requires big money, but really, truly, where it's going to get mass adoption is where, you know, you have an Apple will debut product, and I just saw, by the way, Apple literally during us speaking at a iOS 12, iPhone 12 event they just announced, and they're gonna. I'm 90% sure they're gonna introduce time of flight like they did with their iPad, and essentially, stepping back, I think the future in the next few years is having major hardware manufacturers and software developers to make it easier for the general public to be able to consume content. I mean, the general public is consuming content on social media in the AR space every day. They just don't know it. Snapchat filters, Instagram selfie filters, that's all augmented reality. You're seeing holographic and visual content tracking over real, you know, live video. So I think there's a lot of money being spent in and invested in the medical space and physical training space in AR and VR right now. There's a lot of money if you know where to position yourself. But again, I think the next big hurdle is consumer applications. And I think it may be worth mentioning, I wanted to respond to something you also said, embracing other platforms of creativity. I think a lot of photographers, if you like photo major like myself, a lot of photographers out there are really struggling with the nature of how the world is right now. That, you know, there's not a lot of photo shoots happening as much as before. You know, rates have changed for a lot of talent of people can acquire. I still have some of my cameras I had from RIT days and right when I graduated, and I saved a lot of money to spend thousands of dollars on a 1DS. But now you can buy, you know, a Canon Rebel that does a perfectly decent job for $400. You know, the 15 megapixel, and most campaigns are digital these days. So now photographers are getting really cheap because there's access to cheaper equipment, and it's affecting the pros that were trying to feed their families and earn enough money and bill enough. And so I think for me, it was really hard to Nick, my best friend, which is great working with my best friend and co-founding 2 companies with him. He had to really like shake me a few years back because I was too stuck to the idea of giving up being Douglas Sonders' photographer. We as photographers, you know, we really take that as our identity, and just trying to be creative and enjoying that. And to be honest, I love still shooting, but I also, the fact of just creating anything has been a blast. New challenge every day, new content. Definitely, if you're listening to this and you're having that sort of battle within yourself, don't be afraid that if you start shooting a little less, but you're still creating in some other manner, it's still honestly just as rewarding.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And that was actually going to be my next question, was just in terms of advice for students, you know, going out into the marketplace, you know, especially at this stage with COVID, you know, things have really changed, and the students that have just graduated. I know there's a podcast I've been listening to on Gen Z podcast where it was a young woman who just graduated in May. And so she embraced it and started this podcast, which has turned out to be very successful, interviewing different other Gen Zers that are working in different innovative spaces. So, you know, do you have any other kind of advice for students moving forward into the world as they're graduating, and kind of, you know, those that are just starting that, you know, are going to be taking classes for the next few years, and then those that are, you know, graduating in this current environment? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think before this went live, I talked about one of my favorite professors, other than you, of course, is Professor Doug Manchi, and who I know, passed recently. He was very inspiring, and we studied guys like Kwaku Alston, who was just a legend as RIT goes, as RIT grads go, at least when I was in school there. And it was the nature that you'll understand that there's always going to be somebody younger and more talented than you, no matter what happens. And I think what's allowed me to survive in the space, and I know a lot of my other friends, Mike Turek, Chad Griffith, guys that I've followed that are immense talents from RIT, from my graduating class. You can be a great shooter, but honestly, that means jack in regards to earning a living. That's the truth. That's unfortunate truth. But you could be extremely talented, but also understand the nature of business. And I know RIT, really touts understanding the business, but beyond that, connections. That's the truth of key to success right now for us and our team is connections, valuing the people we have in our lives, and that we've worked with. I'll tell you that some of the greatest projects we've had are clients that have gotten laid off over the years, and I'd follow up with them. What can we do to help you? Just being there for them, legitimately just caring about other people. And then they would move on to incredible other companies and bring us in and really take great care of us, just because we created this sort of ecosystem of looking out for each other. And not because I knew if I scratched their back, they'd scratch mine, just understanding that, treating others really well, maintaining a positive reputation, and really truly like maintaining good connections. Even some of my original RIT connections have been awesome, that I still connect with and share resources with. So the people you're meeting with today, for you students, keep in touch with your classmates. Be there if they need something, be there for them. You'd be surprised. I literally wouldn't be where I am today, and I'm very thankful to be doing all right, especially in the time of COVID, and running two companies, honestly, just because of my friends, looking out for my friends and in the industry and in personal contacts, and vice versa. Truly, that's honestly one of our biggest strengths right now.
Wonderful. That's just amazing advice. Speaking of COVID again, I'm interested to learn about your company and how that might have affected it. I ask because as we've obviously with academia now, it's accelerated us in online learning. And the other component is all these tech companies, conferences have all gone online. And so there's been this amazing over the summer ability to go online and engage with these tech conferences that normally may not be able to actually access. And I feel that it's really accelerating online communication, virtual reality platforms that are being developed. And so I'm curious, because you were already in the field before COVID hit, if you're finding that has also kind of accelerated maybe some of the demand for your work too.
Oh yeah, it's been a really interesting. I'm thankful we had clients already kind of saw us as a digital services production company. We can create great print and motion campaigns, but because we moved into the VR space and immersive space in general 5 years ago, it was already in the mindset of our longstanding clients that we are capable of such things. And so when COVID hit, there was about 2 weeks of just going like, oh God, will I ever work again? Because we're like, seeing all these shoots indefinitely get postponed, and you wonder what's next. We didn't know what in March 14th or 15th, whenever things shut down, what was next. So, what you do is we sat down with our team and we thought you start, rather than just panicking, there was about a week where we were just following up with clients, just as everybody was going like, hey, what can we do to help? Because clients were still coming out with products. Things still had to come out, eventually, maybe delayed, but we'd go to them, hey, do you still want to do a shoot? Is this still a thing? And, kind of they were feeling out what they wanted and what they could do and what could be allowed. I mean, our clients and friends at Amazon had a full travel, may still exist, a full travel block for all their team. So, they had to reevaluate how they would accomplish shooting campaigns. So we sat back down and truly, we talked to our friends. We had a bunch of Zoom calls with clients and agencies to see what their concerns were. And then we went back to the drawing board and thought about what we could do to help our clients. Sure, of course, also pay our bills ultimately, and keep payroll going. But, really thinking about what clients want. And so we pivoted to offering, even though we did it always, but we put together a presentation and we circulated to our clients. I believe our code name back in the day was like a COVID content creation in the time of COVID. And we sent out this deck to all of our agencies, and you'd be surprised how many were just excited that somebody was thinking, oh, okay, all right, so we can't do shoots per se, but like, here's some other things that we could do. A lot of it was like doing animated videos, even if it's just simple After Effects with voiceover and text, AR stuff, VR and AR and VR stuff, rendered content, live stream stuff, remote camera packages, FedExing out cameras for clients to self-film. Believe it or not, that's become its own industry. So literally after this interview, I can't say that the agency, but we have a second follow-up with a very large ad agency that's wants to do an AR campaign based through Spark AR, Instagram, Facebook. We're getting a lot of those calls where they want to do more entertaining things in the immersive space. And we just did a big NIH educational VR campaign through Quest, Oculus Quest platform. And literally they want to extend, we have clients like them that want to extend to more Oculus Quest based offerings. And Oculus Quest has really opened up a lot of platforms for content creation, because there's a lot of consumers that now have them in their houses. So sorry, I know that was long and drawn out, but there's been a lot of I'm just, again, super thankful that we positioned ourselves this way, because there's been a lot of ask for digital services of that type, whether it be immersive or streaming. And so that's kept us pretty busy, actually.
Yeah. And you've mentioned your team, and you talked about your best friend. Can you give everyone kind of an idea of who you have on staff? Who are you working with, and what their job responsibilities are as well?
Yeah. So a lot of we've kept pretty streamlined, just because it allows us to usually we'll have upwards of about 10 people working full time on various projects, and producers, coders, modelers, project leads, accounting, legal. I would say our biggest need usually if we're talking immersive specifically is 3D asset management and code. I had to essentially self-taught Unity, took a bunch of online courses, just got a few years back and went nuts. And I said, you can't just rely on other people. You have to have a general understanding yourself. I may not be the most amazing coder. My C# is really mediocre, but and I'm okay at 3D modeling and photogrammetry and scanning. But having a general knowledge of all of that has been paramount for coordinating our developers, really, truly. If you don't truly understand even a rudimentary understanding of again 3D asset management and basic code and UI and UX, you're going to be in rough shape trying to run a tech company offering digital services in that regard. But yeah, we've been able to keep our team, pretty tight, and it's allowed to keep our overhead low over the years. But we've been able, like I said, scale and handle a lot. But we live in this great time where people can work remote and you can scale up on your team pretty easily, especially if another a particular large project comes through, you add.
I think for, coming in from academia, the challenge, which is exciting to me, is developing curriculum as innovation continues to expand. And I've always been somebody who advocated for even art students to learn some code. The photography students, we developed a class with my colleague in 3D digital design, where we brought the photo students together with the CG students, so that as you mentioned, you can't be an expert in every different area, but it's also important to understand that language. And so collaborating and working with somebody in a different field, I think, helps to expand that. So my question for you is just in, advice as a professor. I'm always developing my curriculum and trying to adapt it to new technology. And if you had any other advice for us as we're going forward with that.
Yeah, I would say during my photo time at RIT, one of my favorite courses, well, you would know the course, was it art and design? Was it the one where the graphic designers teamed up with the photographers?
Oh yeah, I've forgotten the name, but was it the one where you worked on the magazine, or was it the one where
They
you
would give
were?
us assignments. Yeah.
Okay,
They
yeah,
would give us
yeah,
like layouts, like, okay, so, do a layout for a 2-page spread, team up, and they
right.
would team us up with random, it would be 50% photographers, 50% designers, design majors, and we'd team up. I think when you express that there's a class where 3D model or 3D artists and students that had a little bit of development background could team up, that's great. And I think what was most inspiring for me, especially when you're trying to be a photographer, and then I was transitioning to be a developer, or at least be a project lead or a producer in the space. What really helped keep that going was personal projects, doing things that I was really excited about. I've done little silly Spark AR and Snapchat filters just for my own, general entertainment. And just kind of like, it keeps my skills sharp, and my clients who follow my social media get really excited about that. But I think it's really tough to be a developer and also an asset creator. So I think like being able to team up with others that have really great skills in the space is super inspiring and fun. I wish I had more time to do that. And I have friends that are really amazing 3D artists that we do some collaboration together just for fun. I just hit up, I was been communicating with a fairly prominent electronic music artist where I wanted to collaborate with their new album release, and I wasn't worried about the money. It was really just doing these things where, it's just like photography, personal projects, things that inspire you to create something really, truly amazing, compelling, is the best way we've done leap forwards and being better developers and better understanding user interface and user experience.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So kind of a parting question, do you have any favorite projects or favorite jobs that you've worked on that you want to talk about, or maybe even just a current project that you're working on that you're excited about?
Yeah, I can't get into too much about what we're doing with our intellectual property, but it's been really exciting being in and out of the operating room. I've been watched more spine surgeries than most med students at this point. but I think it's really compelling to be able to bring AR technology into their surgical space in a way that will impact lives directly. And so, you know, when you think about AR and VR, and we started 4 or 5 years ago, yeah, we were hoping people would be entertained, that people would actually want to pay for it. And, but you know, that, you know, it's just like when I shot my first magazine cover, I was just excited to see it out there. But then to think about something that will make an actual impact is truly exciting way to wake up in the morning and think about that. And then separately as an artist, one of my, other than, you know, very proud of what we did with our Jeep augmented reality configurator, our VW campaign. So we had a really unique opportunity to be a part of work with our friends at Volkswagen America to debut a new vehicle for them. And they dropped off one of their prototype vehicles for us to shoot a print and motion campaign. And then we pitched doing an AR aspect to it. And so what they did was they took over the first floor of an entire museum, the Peterson Automotive Museum. And then we created a series of art prints that were 8 feet wide. And they hung them all through the museum. And then I personally had the opportunity to design a series of using image markers, essentially just reactive art. And so we had a bunch of helpers with iPads because literally we didn't have time to go through App Store. It was such a tight deadline. We didn't have time to submit to the App Store and get an app going. So we did side-loaded apps into iPads and had they debuted the vehicle to the U.S. automotive press. And so they're all there at this event, and then they could walk around the gallery with iPads, and I modeled and coded essentially art, interactive art to come out of each print. And I will tell you, I didn't sleep for like a week or two, but honestly, what a blast. It was really exciting to see everybody interacting with the art and be able, as a creator, not just a photographer, but I think that's the first time in a while, I felt like it was just awesome just to create whatever platform it was. So I think that was probably one of the most fun things I did in the art space.
And I think for me, what attracted me to augmented reality is, as a photographer, it's that you can connect the physical, you know, at the beginning, it was the physical print with digital content. And so it's that combination of being able to connect the physical world with digital content, I thought was really attractive to me as well.
Yeah, and I really commend you for starting that side of the that type of education there at RIT. That's really amazing. I was really excited to hear that update from you. I think it's really truly the future in a lot of ways, especially you'll see in the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you. And as you know, we're inviting you to the symposium. We are going to be using Mozilla Hubs as one component of the online symposium this year. And so we'll be inviting you, as well as other alumni that we are chatting with on Facebook Live, you know, so that, you know, students and the people who are attending the conference can engage with you all. Also, you know, my thought is I love the idea of connecting you with other alums that are working in this space as well too. So really excited about that. So really appreciate having you here today and your time as well.
Oh, happy to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, and then our next live chat will be on Thursday, which is October 8th. This one we're doing at 2 o'clock. And that's with Dominique Danielo. I can't say his name. I'm sorry, I mispronounced his name, I think. Anyway, he's a software engineer at Mozilla Hubs, and so he's going to be with us on Thursday.
Awesome.
So again, thank you so much, Douglas. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you at the symposium.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, guys.